Hello and welcome to Journey to Easter. Today is Friday, March 31st, in the fifth week of Lent. Happens to be my boy Thaddeus' birthday today, 30 years old. Happy birthday, Thad. We read in the 10th chapter in the Gospel of John. It says, if I do not perform my Father's works, do not believe me. But if I perform them, even if you do not believe me, believe the works, so that you may realize and understand that the Father is in me and I am in the Father. Jesus is responding to the crowds on the outside of the temple area. Maybe it was the church leaders and the Pharisees, the Sadducees that were always trying to find a way to condemn him. They were preparing to persecute him. It's also kind of interesting that, it was usually there in those large crowds, that they would not see him for who he truly was. They would not see that the Father was in him, as he speaks about, in this particular gospel passage. I think maybe it was being caught up in the excitement or the energy of the crowd, and it kept them from seeing who he was. And I think that sometimes even happens in our own lives, that we get caught up with the crowds. We let that pressure from, whatever it is that's taking place in that event of that large crowd to draw us away from seeing who Jesus really is. The contrast, I think, is that when Jesus goes to the desert sometimes, or with that smaller groups, people listen to him. People experience his presence. They experience him and they see him and they begin to see God. And I think that speaks to us. And sometimes, we're called away from the crowd to have those desert experiences, to have those smaller experiences so that we can begin to see who he is in our life. In our own lives with some of the ordinary activities, such as, let's say, attendance at regular Mass. We hear the gospel and, hopefully we're letting it deepen our faith. But sometimes I think we need to draw ourselves away from the larger crowd and do something, that is like going into the wilderness, going into the desert, so that we can hear him and we can begin to believe. These desert experiences, they come in many forms. Perhaps it's an experience of, as simply as going into your room and just being alone in a quiet place with Jesus. Perhaps it's participating in a small Bible study, where you're with a smaller group of people. And in that smaller conversation, you begin to see and hear other insights to what the Word is speaking to others or to you. Perhaps it's an online devotional program. There are so many, opportunities that we can do through our smart devices. Maybe it's something just quietly listening. Maybe it's a parish event, but it's going beyond, and the larger crowd and finding yourself in a desert experience where God speaks to you in a different way. I think during Lent, we're called and challenged to do something more. The hope is, and we're coming to the end of this Lenten season, is that you won't stop doing those smaller things, that you'll continue in some way so that you can continue to hear him and see him in your daily life. So I encourage you, whatever it is you're doing right now, maybe you're reading the Little Black Book or, another type of devotional book and you see that it's coming to an end, seek out another resource. Seek out another opportunity, that it just continues to grow and your faith continues to grow. And beyond this Lenten season, you see that Jesus still walks with you every day. Because isn't it about trying to become the best version of ourselves, to become holy and continue to grow that way? So I challenge you this day. Continue it. Look ahead. Start to see what more you can add to your life. Continue your journey to Easter.